Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this build we're going to be using 2 Great Stars. This does a lot of damage, it does bleed as well, and it does a significant amount of posture damage. This is a really fun one. Let's get into the details. So to start, what we're using here is 2 Great Stars, both with the Occult Affinity, and since they have natural bleed on them, since we're able to up our Arcane really high, we're getting a fairly good amount of bleed on them, as well as not sacrificing any damage, and getting a really high damage with the Dual Stance moveset as well. And it's time to show this one off. This is a really fun one at 150, one of the more fun ones that I've done lately. Some of the builds obviously are a little bit less fun and some are more fun. This definitely is the latter, no doubt. Being able to absolutely smash things with 2 of these on the jump attacks, it's fantastic. And getting in that posture damage, the posture break, and the massive damage that follows, these 2 are awesome. Having 2 Great Stars with the Occult Affinity is great. Now the Ash of War that we're using here is one that was nerfed in one of the previous patches, I think either the last one or the one before that, but it's Cragblade, and it used to do 20% more posture damage. In this case it just does 10% more, but we're also drinking the tier that increases posture damage as well, and then with our jump attacks we're going to be able to get a lot of damage, a lot of bleed too, and most importantly we're going to be building up a lot of posture damage as well. This is New Game Plus 7, by the way, following up on where my last character left off, and you're going to see on Morgott here the ridiculous amount of damage in general and posture damage we're able to do. This is a really incredible fight here. I'm sorry, I should have elaborated a little bit more, but this is more of a beatdown because, yeah, these apparently are really good. These are very good with the Occult Affinity, going for 1 stat, getting in that high damage, that posture damage, and bleed on top of everything. Morgott is not even able to phase and went down very quickly with these. These are very powerful when dual stanced. Yeah, these are really strong. And by the way, I'm going to show the next clip, which is Golden Shade. If you're going to single-hand this, or basically two-hand it, you're still going to get decent amount of posture damage. I believe they did nerf the Great Hammer posture damage, as opposed to two-handing regular hammers, which ended up getting a buff. But you're still able to get pretty good posture damage out of it. Pretty good damage in general. I don't know the exact comparison to Powerstancing it versus single-handing it as far as posture damage goes, but I can tell you, two-handing these if you just want to go with 1, or if you're starting with 1, it's pretty powerful as well, and very comparable in my opinion. So that's something to consider if you don't want the weight of 2, or if you just have 1 for now. It's not too hard to get 2 because you can get 2 in your first playthrough simply by grabbing the initial one and then the NPC that drops 1 as well. But if you're somebody who's just using 1 or rocking 1 for the beginning of the game, you can use it. You can get Cragblade fairly early too, build up a little bit of posture damage, and then eventually get that Occult Affinity, get some good bleed damage as well too. And obviously with Golden Shade he doesn't bleed, but for the majority of bosses, at least most of them do, you're going to get a lot of damage out of this build. And here we go on another dragon. We're going to show the posture buildup or damage in general. I'm not sure if I actually posture broke this one, but even so, the damage in general that we're getting in combination with the bleed, this is a very, very solid build for the majority of the game. And honestly, testing this one, it's a lot of fun too. One thing I want to say real quick, by the way, if you're not subscribed to this channel, definitely be sure to hit that sub button if you love Elden Ring in general. There's also a Discord that's in the link below. The community has been growing like crazy lately. It's a ton of fun, so be sure to join that as well too. Let's get back to the build. So as you can see, the damage we're hitting for is quite good. And again, we're using these on Occult Affinity so we can invest in 1 stat. And at 150 on New Game Plus 7, I'm really happy with the damage on these in general. Powerstancing these, a lot of damage out of it. You're going to get those occasional bleed procs too by just smashing with the jump attacks, and we're also going to get that posture damage. Obviously at the end we hit him in the head to finish off the dragon there. That was pretty cool. So on mobs this is fine too if you're grouped up or whatever with them, or you're just individually fighting single enemies. This is something that's going to excel as well because we're just getting a lot of damage in general. And again, mobs even have less posture, so regular enemies in the game aren't going to have a lot of posture. You're going to be able to smash them, destroy their HP quickly, possibly even posture break them very easily. The Great Stars in general are just really powerful, and again, any weapon with innate bleed, by the way, that you put on Occult Affinity, you can pretty much invest in 1 stat and get high damage out of it, and then the innate bleed will scale with the fact that you're using the Occult Affinity. So say it has 50 base bleed, it's going to turn into, especially on something as big as the Great Stars, I think we're getting like 110 bleed per 1 on the Occult Affinity while not sacrificing any damage by using it in Blood Affinity. And we're going to get another big posture damage break here because guess what? These actually do good as far as posture damage and breaks go. As far as posture in general, the best thing in the game is still Glintblade, phalanx, however you say it, because obviously that still feels semi-broken. I feel like they're going to hit that eventually too, because they've nerfed so much with posture damage. It almost feels like overkill at this point. But even with that said, as far as this stuff goes, I think everything's set, and you're still able to do decent posture damage in a world where there's a lot less posture breaks than there used to be. And why did they do so much as far as the posture nerfs go? My guess is, my personal guess, and again, this is just my opinion, this isn't something that's fact, is that posture damage wasn't supposed to be what it was when the game was released. It wasn't supposed to be that you were able to consistently posture break, especially with stuff like Flame of the Red Mains, bosses like 2 to 5 times a fight. It was supposed to be something rare that happened maybe 1 time per, boss battle, and then they realized that, and they just nerfed everything across the board. And then we were left with something where I felt like it was a little bit over of a nerf, where posture damage just kind of fell off the map entirely. And again, that's just one man's opinion, literally just my opinion. But yeah, I feel like somewhat in some way they feel like it was overkill the way posture was, and they wanted to fix it, but it felt like they nerfed it a little too hard, because it should be part of the game, because you should be rewarded for building up posture damage as long as there's going to be poise in the game. But back to the Great Stars, you can see me getting beat up here. Do miss a couple times with this Gargoyle because he's got a little bit of a fluky hitbox, and well, it's me and jump attack, so I do miss sometimes, but we're able to get good damage out of it again. Once again, the Great Stars do not disappoint. If you're going to use these, I recommend definitely going for the Occult Affinity. That's one thing I can say about them. Definitely go for that. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have 1 Great Stars with Cragblade. We have Bloodhound Step on the other one, but I didn't end up using it. Both at plus 24, preferably plus 25. Any seal will do. We have the White Mask and Raptor's Black Feathers, Lord of Blood's Exultation, Claw Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman. We have the Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman, and then we have the Faith tier as well as the Stance Breaking tier as well, because that's a good combination with this, because we're working to build up posture damage. We're using Cragblade and we're using the jump attacks. Now for stats, as I mentioned earlier, we went for Occult Affinity, so we're highly invested in Arcane. With the Occult Affinity on these, we get a lot of the bleed, we get a lot of damage in general. We don't sacrifice anything, as I mentioned before, because the Blood Affinity does have a damage reduction. We don't have to worry about that. And more importantly, other than that 22 base strength, everything else is highly invested in one stat, specifically going for Arcane, which I really like on 125 and 150 builds. Now let's get into buffs. And for buffs, we're not doing anything too crazy. We're going to drink our tier first because it has the Faith tier in it so that we can do the buffs that we want to do. And then we're going to be using Golden Vow because now we've gotten to 25 Faith with that tier. And then Flame Grant Me Strength, fill up your FP. And then we can do the jump attacks for massive damage in general, good amount of bleed, good posture damage, and a generally good build that honestly I had a lot of fun with. This was a fun one. And hopefully that helped you build a really awesome Great Stars build, because this is a really powerful one. And again, as I mentioned, this is a really fun one that has a fairly good amount of damage without going too crazy in the buffs. Yeah, well, in terms of buffs, you're not going to have to do too much to get good damage out of this. And I think people like that, because buffing stuff 6, 8, 10 times, it's something I've done before, but it's not always fun to do that. It's just fun once in a while. So this is a really nice one. You don't have to go too crazy with. Be sure to check out that awesome Discord. It's been growing like crazy lately. Definitely be sure to sub if you love overpowered PvE builds. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.